How's it going? I thought I would do a quick update because I have some news, bad news, good news, and I really like these tank top t-shirts, so I got a couple of them from Amazon, and they're like elastic, I got like a 3 just to show off my amazing physique, I think I look good for a 61-year-old, but haven't touched my kettlebells in the past few days, and I returned my nice Chrysler Pacifica back to the airport rental, grabbed an Uber. It was interesting, I'm always talking to these Uber guys, because they come from all kinds of parts of the society, right? This guy, Chinese, young kid, maybe, I don't know, 20, 22 years old, in a beaten up Honda Civic with no shocks. At least that's what it felt like. And you probably know, like, a lot of taxi cabs and Uber cars, they have very bad shocks, right? Because they just drive small cars like this Honda Civic. It's not designed to do 500,000 miles, in 2 years. And so it's like, that car, that Chrysler Pacifica, was pretty nice. I would love to have a slightly more powerful engine, but the suspension and the controls inside, at first I thought they didn't have satellite, XM radio. Then I found that I had it, because I see like highway, what is it called, like that channel with old highway, new highway, something like country songs. And wait a second, that doesn't seem like regular radio. What is this? And then I see there's Fox News, CNN. Oh man, so I did have satellite radio there for free. And so then I came back, and now I'm waiting for 2 packages. No, 3. So what's arriving today finally is my scope. That's why I cannot use this Ruger rifle, because it has no sights, right? No metal sights, iron sights, whatever you call them. And so I used a company in Ontario, and I paid in full, and I ordered this $500 scope on January 9th, which was Monday. So it took them more than a week, and they only shipped it on 16th, which was I think it was Tuesday or something, right? So Monday, they didn't have enough time to ship it even like Friday, right? Probably would be what, like 14th? Let me just double check. 16th was Monday. Yeah, so took them 7 days. And Canada Post shows that the package was received on 16th, and then it was supposed to be here last week, then it got delayed. So now I keep checking the tracking info. Let me just see what they say now. I'm just going to refresh the screen. It says expected delivery today by end of day, out for delivery. And our Canada Post truck usually shows up around 10, 11 in the morning. And so I went in to check. All I had was like a marketing flyer, and the guy was putting letters in. He says, can you give me like 5 minutes? Because he didn't want me to open so he opened the entire thing, right? And he was just sorting things in. And I said, are you the guy that delivers here usually? Because I said a couple of weeks ago, somebody was waiting for important package, and they put a notice in my slot, but no key, because it was a big parcel, right? But online they said package delivered, and it took like 3 days fighting with Canada Post to find that package, and eventually they left me the key. And I did a video about this, Captain Sergei versus Canada Post, and this guy says, no, it's not me. Of course it's not you. He says, I'm kind of like a relief guy, because he says the main guy is either sick or something. I don't know. But looked like a friendly gentleman. We just chatted. I waited for him to sort all this mail. No package. And so I have this scope coming today. So I have my blinds open, and I'm waiting to see Canada Post truck and asked him, I said, wait, so I thought all packages, if it's Canada Post, they were all delivered around the same time. And he says, no, if it's like expedited parcel or something, it can still be delivered, you know, later. You will see another Canada Post truck. And so that's what I'm looking for. And then also, a friend of mine, my boss, like very thoughtful boss, right? So he keeps sending me some links, and he sent me a, we both like the IPA beer, but low alcohol, right? And so we have this Partake, P-A-R-T-A-K-E, Partake brand, and turns out you can buy it online. And so I went online and I got like 10 or 15% off, and I ordered 2 cases. And so let me just double check. And so 2 cases of non-alcoholic beer are arriving today by if I can open, they're arriving today by Purelator. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, your package shipped. Okay, track your shipment. Just clicking a button here, and the wheel is spinning. So let's see, did somebody drink my beer? Monday, January 23rd, 7:59 a.m. Now it's 12:25. Location Calgary. Description, status of the status: on vehicle for delivery. Estimated delivery date Monday, January 23rd. Okay, so we're good. So the beer is coming, the scope should be coming, and then next week what's coming is that you know, I was watching some videos about all these rifles and bolts, and I noticed that quite a few times when people are shooting a bolt action rifle, they have trouble with the bolt. By the way, let me show you what I mean. So no mag. It's all empty. As you can see, no mag and no bolt. Because by Canadian rules, either you have the bolt removed or you should have a lock. So let me just install this. And you can hear it makes a lot of noise. Right, and then it's funny, look at this, how close this is. So I was at first confused, like how do you get it out? And then I found out there's a button in here, bolt release, and you have to push that button, and then you can turn the bolt like this, and only then, you see, towards this way, and only then it goes out because it has this. So like specifically shaped. So the only way to put this bolt in and take out is when this is near the stock. If you try to do it like this, it's not enough space, right? But anyway, so this bolt doesn't seem to be very smooth, right? And I was watching videos about this, and one guy says he was using, what they call it, JB bore cleaner, and I couldn't find them. JB bore cleaning compound. Yeah, basically it's very unobtrusive, so you put it on this, and then you just do like 300, 400, 500 movements with the bolt, and then you clean it up, and it becomes much more you know, much smoother action, right? And that's what I'm waiting for. So that JB bore for some reason was not available in Canada, So I've been buying a lot of stuff on Amazon Canada, amazon.ca. So this time I had to go to Amazon USA, and so I just checked the status. It's coming this Thursday, so today is Monday. And then also yesterday, since I have the car, I went to Canadian Tire, so I got some bulk button gun cleaning patches. I already have the kit, but I didn't have any oil, so I bought this lubricating oil at Canadian Tire, and I bought this gun bore cleaner, probably the same as, except this is liquid, right? Whereas that JB compound is more like Vaseline, you know, like a paste. And so I have my cleaning kit. Still haven't cleaned my shotgun yet because I already did 40 rounds first time, and I did 50 rounds this time. And the manual says clean every 200 rounds. And so I don't see, I know some guys said different, but I don't see any reason to disobey the manual. Mossberg should know what they're talking about. They say every 200 rounds. And so once I get the JB compound, I'm gonna polish the bolt on the Ruger, and then I'll have everything ready for the cleaning on the shotgun after I go for another shooting session later on. So that's what's happening. And the major event that happened was with this forklift load, right? Where I was so happy when it came about, and you know, the carrier was locked in and the shipper was locked in. I remember I did a post, I did a video, I said my first load of 23, and the rate confirmation was issued on January 5th, and the carrier was supposed to show up January 11th at the shipper. He didn't show up that week, he didn't show up the next week. Even on Friday, which was January 20th, we were arguing and screaming at each other, and the carrier was coming up with all kinds of excuses, and more about that later. And then the shipper was so desperate to ship this because the customer, the final, I mean, consignee, my customer is the shipper, but the final point where it's going is the buyer of this machine who bought it from the customer of the shipper. Like, can you believe how many parties are involved here, right? So this is me, and then there's the shipper, the forklift shop, and they sold this machine to a big equipment place in Western Canada, and that equipment place sold it to the final buyer. And so all these guys want updates, right? And so when the carrier was 11 days late, I cannot even begin to tell you how upset everybody was. And I just said, okay, can you please stop screaming at me, you know, like they were chewing my butt, you know, basically, what's going on? And then the carrier, okay, I understand bad weather, right? So we're all human, right? Especially in January. You're telling me that your trucks are stuck due to bad weather, okay, but you know, it would be helpful when you communicate, right? That's the issue. And I did a video about this, like number one issue between carriers and brokers is lack of communication, right? Because this guy never told me that he could not pick up on January 11th. You know, like he had the rate confirmation. January 5th was Thursday. So he had Thursday to look at it. Friday was January 6th, and then Monday was January 9th, and Tuesday was January 10th, right? So I received no emails, no calls from the trucking company. So I assumed everything was good, but you know, as a good boy, I want to make sure, because the customer kept, you know, calling me, and his customer kept calling me or emailing me for updates. And so I emailed the carrier and I say, okay, so today is January 10th, loading is tomorrow. Are you okay? What time do you think your trucks will be at the shipper? And to my utter surprise, the carrier says, "Oh, my step deck is still in Newfoundland, and my RGN is." He mentioned Buffalo, but I don't remember what he said. Somewhere it's stuck in Buffalo or going to Buffalo or from Buffalo, something like that, right? And then it's already end of that week. Was Friday was January 13th, right? And then we start finally Monday. Oh yeah, and so Friday he says we're waiting for permits for the RGN. So basically he says the step deck is on the way from Newfoundland, just waiting for the good weather so the ferry can sail. And then Monday he said, yeah, the step deck is over the water. So now he's in Nova Scotia. He's trucking towards the shipper, partially loaded, because I made a mistake of indicating that load as LTL, partial, never again, you know. And so the guy loaded his step deck, and of course that caused more delays for them to find that other load. But the RGN, according to the carrier, was sitting empty, and because his trailer is 10 feet wide, the carrier said he needs a permit to run empty through New York. I'm like, wait, New York, so where's your RGN? He says, well, he's sitting in Pennsylvania near Ohio border, and so he needs a permit to run empty. And so I called Transport Permits, the permit company that I use, and I said, you guys see any issues with New York DOT permit system? She says, hold on. And she was nice. I said, hey, this is Sergei from Canada. I worked with you guys before, but now I'm a broker, so I might work with you again. And she says, oh yeah, Sergei, I recognize you. And I said, could you please do me a big favor, just check if everything looks okay? Is it up and running, the New York DOT system? And she says, yeah, I was able to log in, don't see any notices, don't see any issues. Okay. So I emailed the carrier, I said, hey, I just asked my old permit broker to check, and she says there's no issues with New York DOT. And the guy says, well, it's not the permit system itself. He says, there's something wrong with my credentials. He says, me and a bunch of my colleagues, like other trucking companies, we were having issues. We cannot log in, because he was ordering permits himself. He says, I cannot log in. And so this continued, this narrative, as Fox News and CNN likes to use that word, narrative. We have to change the narrative. And so this narrative, and usually it means something bad, right? So this narrative with the permit story, unable to order a permit to run empty. I stress the word empty. So this continued for like 3 days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think. Finally Wednesday, and I keep emailing the guy, right? I know he doesn't want to be called because, you know, and I don't like calling people. If I can email, I'll email. Much easier for me. And so finally Wednesday he says, yeah, I got the permit. Okay. And I said, so can we load Thursday or Friday? No. He's 8 hours away from Ontario. Like, wait, I thought you said he's sitting in Pennsylvania near Ohio border. So I assumed he was, you know, at the top there, like near the lake, like Erie, PA. And I know these areas like the back of my hand, right? Like Harbor Creek, PA, the TA truck stop to Buffalo is 85 miles, right? And then from Buffalo, it's roughly 100 miles or 160 clicks to Cambridge, Ontario, my old parking place. But then the loading is near London, which is 1 hour west, which is another like 60 miles, right? But he would be, if he's coming from Buffalo, he would take QEW to 403, which would be like a shortcut. So it's not, it's probably 100 miles plus 50, maybe like 145 miles from Buffalo to London via 403. And so now he says it's 8 hours away. So he says he cannot make Thursday or Friday. And so eventually, and again, the shipper calls me and like, what's going on? And the carrier is shouting and I'm shouting and nobody's happy, but I don't have another carrier. You know, it's not an easy load to find a replacement for in terms of carriers. And so this guy's already on the way, right? I tried to find somebody else. I posted the load. I tried to find other guys, but I didn't have any luck. I probably should have looked at the database of carriers we have on our system, you know, people that worked with my logistics company before, because they're all in there, right? So I could have asked my boss for helping me, you know, locate heavy haul carriers that we already worked with. And but I'll do it next time. If I run into a situation like this, I'll do it next time. And so the shipper was so upset that he agreed to pay 2.5 times the salary to his guys to come out on Saturday, because that was like the only time they could do it. I'm talking about the carrier, before the end of the week. He could make it Friday, he could make it Thursday, right? And so I said, okay, what time? 8 o'clock. I said, okay, be there at 8 o'clock. So the step deck, so 8 o'clock Ontario time, which is 6 over here, 5 to 6 on Saturday, I already see voicemail on my phone from the shipper. Sergei, your trucks are not here yet. Any idea on the ETA? And so I went to wash my face, prepared coffee before I answer, and then 6:10, 10 after 6 my time, so 10 after 8 over there. So I get another email. Sergei, the step deck showed up, no sign of the RGN yet. And so I start calling, so where the heck is the RGN? So the guy is 2 hours late. So but again, the step deck there, okay, at least they can start loading the step deck. And there was a huge problem with that one as well, but more about that in a second. But the RGN was late. So where's the RGN? Why is it taking so long? But I said, okay, at least the RGN is on the way, because he said the RGN guy called the shipper. The shipper is aware of the RGN's location. And I said, okay, maybe by the time you load the step deck, the RGN will be there, right? Because they cannot load 2 trucks at the same time. And then another can of worms got opened, because now the carrier says, oh, nobody told us that the forks, they were forks. Like, you told us about second load, like the load number 1 is the forklift, right? No, load number 2 is the mast. That's what the shipper told me, right? And I added some extra weight to be sure, you know, just to give the carrier. I said, okay, it's LTL, but the mast weighs 23,500 pounds. And then when they were late, I had to redo the rate confirmation, right? To put the correct date. And I was talking to the shipper, and the shipper says, well, actually we took the forks off the mast, because this way it's much easier to load. He says, usually we put the forks under, like first, and then we load the mast on top of it. This way it doesn't take any more space. But because he says if the forks are connected, it's gonna be difficult, you know. But the weight is the same, right? So let's say roughly, I asked him, I said, so what do you figure the forks weigh? He says, well, roughly 5,000 pounds. I said, okay, so if we told them 23.5, that means that the mast is about 18,500, right? He says, yeah, that sounds about right. And so the carrier was advised that that was the weight. I said, yeah, okay, it's partial. You can load something else, but you must be able to load 23,500 pounds. So now the carrier is screaming at me that basically I lied to them, that now there's forks. I said, guys, the forks are part of the mast. Like, it doesn't matter if they're taken off or it's the same weight. I told you, look at your rate confirmation. We agreed 23,500 pounds. Oh, so that's everything together? I said, yeah. I said, okay, can you pick up 23.5? The guy says, I don't think so. Okay, wait a second. So what's going on? So what do you have on the deck? And the shipper calls me and he says, well, he has a big container. He says it's about fully loaded inside, like, 20 or 40 foot, probably 20 foot container. He says, full of stuff inside. He says it's about 30,000 pounds. So he says he cannot load 23.5. And they say they will leave the forks behind and another truck will come Monday to pick them up. And so now the shipper says, no way. He says, and the carrier says, we're not going to charge you anything extra, but we cannot pick up the forks. We're going to leave them. Another truck will bring them over, and then that truck with the forks will hook up with the truck with the mast in Edmonton. We're going to reload the forks, and everything will be delivered on the same day. Now I'm talking to my boss, and he says, no. That's not how you do it. Now I have to change everything and issue 3 load confirmations and show some extra stops where that forks are exchanged or transloaded, and the carrier says, no, don't worry about it. We don't need any extra paperwork because it'll be on that same truck in Edmonton. But my boss says, what if something happens to those forks, right? And the shipper says, well, what if they lose it, or they fail to pick them up? Because he says the forklift is pretty much useless without forks. That's why it's called forklift, right? And so the shipper again is calling me, screaming at me. He says, Sergei, we're gonna cancel the load, or we're gonna lock the gate, your truck together in it for the weekend if they don't pick up everything together. The mast must go. And so I call the carrier. The carrier is screaming at me. And I hear his wife, because I think he works from home. His wife in the background says, is that those butt people from logistics company? Like, I cannot believe this. I've been trying to be nice to everybody. And so eventually the shipper emails me. And I asked the carrier, right, specifically, I said, please email or text me when your trucks arrive at the shipper and when they're loaded and they leave the shipper, right? Like, how difficult is that, right? He never called me with any updates from the shipper. And then I went to shoot my gun, right? This was Saturday. Yeah, I went to the gun range. And then I see like 2:30 Ontario time, which is 4:30 here. No, wait, it was 12:30 here. I know it was after lunch. Anyway, I see an email from the shipper where he says, Sergei, we managed to load the forks and your trucks left. So 2 trucks, so we don't need a 3rd truck anymore. And I said, how did you manage to load the forks? Like, they're not, they said, we loaded on the guy with the main machine. Like, are you sure it's gonna work? Because normally they don't allow 2 pieces, right, when you're overweight. Like, that machine was 70,000 pounds. And so the trucks left, and the carrier never said anything about, arrival, and when they left, no updates. And so I didn't bother them Sunday, of course, and then Monday, today, I sent them an email, please, because the customer, the final equipment company that bought this forklift, they asked me like at 8 o'clock my time, which is 10 in the east, they asking me for an update, like where's the trucks and what's the ETA. So Monday they're already asking what's the ETA, and the distance was about 2,700 miles. I remember I never liked this when brokers on day one, they're already asking me for ETA, which is like 3,000 miles away. And so I didn't want to bother the carrier about this, but I said, can I please get the update? What's your truck's location? This load main machine, this load fall off mast. I said daily updates were requested by the customer due to high value of the load. And to my surprise, the carrier actually replied. He says, okay, the RGN is in this town in Ontario, and the step deck is in this town. And then he sent me, I didn't ask about this, he sent me a second email. He says the ETA is this, what we agreed on. And so it looks like once they picked up everything worked. But also in the email where the shipper sent me that email saying that the forks are loaded and the trucks are on the way, he says, you might want to check with your carrier because it looks to me like they were lying to you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I called him. I said, what do you mean by lying? And he said, well, I talked to one of the drivers, and he said that he was not coming back from US empty. He was loaded. And so I don't know if that's true or not, but if this is true, so basically the delay with the IGN was not caused by some issues with New York DOT system on the carrier side, who said he could not log in, but it was caused by what the shipper told me. He had a used machine and was coming into Canada, and as you know, you have to go through export procedure, which requires 72-hour notice. And the shipper says that's why he couldn't show up on Friday, and that's why he was late Monday, because he says the driver said he tried to cross in Queenston, Lewiston, right? That's where the export office is for US. But for some reason he couldn't do it over there. I'm guessing they turned him around because that office is very strict. So he went and drove 2 hours east to Thousand Islands Bridge and crossed over there. And then he was coming. And Thousand Islands, that's like Kingston, Ontario, right? That's very far. And he says that's why he was late. And so I didn't confront the carrier about this, right? So I just want to finish this load. And so after he gave me the update today, I'm supposed to get like daily updates, but I don't want to bother them. So I sent him a message. I said, is it okay if I touch base with you Wednesday or Thursday to get a feel where your trucks are? And of course I got no response, but I'm gonna email them Friday or Saturday or Thursday to see if they're on schedule, because of course it's January and they're going into BC, into mountains, you know, there can be some bad weather over there. And actually a broker I know, another broker, I asked about this. I said, do you ever, you know, punish carriers? Because I looked through some of my old rate informations, and I remember I did not like this, but one of the rate informations as carrier, one of the rate informations said, must of course advise when you arrive at the shipper, when you leave the shipper, and then provide daily updates before 9 a.m. or between 8 and 9 every morning. And failure to provide updates can result in a $25 penalty for each missed check-in. And then I remember thinking, what the heck, I don't like this. But I never failed to communicate with brokers as a carrier. I was always good about that. But I remember one other rate confirmation. You know, quite often brokers want to see proof that the load is loaded on the carrier they booked the load with, because sometimes people do double brokering, and we want to see, sometimes I want to see the door with a sign with the carrier's name, right? And I remember some brokers were requesting this. They said must send, when you load it, send 2 pictures, and one of them showing the load and the other one showing the door or the sign on the side of your truck. And again, that guy said failure to send a picture or 2 pictures may result in a $20 or $25 fine. And so I asked this other broker I know, I said, do you ever try this? You ever try, you know, putting a penalty clause in the rate confirmation saying that, you know, you're going to charge them money if they fail to provide updates? And the broker says, no, I never tried this, but I always, basically, most of the time, I call and email until I get an update. And so that's just the unfortunate position brokers are, you know, in, begging carriers for updates, and carriers pretty much do whatever they want. Oh yeah, bad weather. Okay, we're 1 week late. Don't worry about it. Okay, we'll pick it up next week. And of course that, you know, aggravates everybody else, because now they think I'm lying to them. Like the shipper, the customer of the shipper, they think I was doing something like, so where's your truck? You know, like I promised them a truck on January 11th. Now the guy shows up on Saturday, January 21st. So I don't know if this particular shipper will ever work with me again, right? Because now I'm the bad guy. I gave him a truck that was 10 days late. So basically, like Dangerfield used to say, you know, I get no respect. And brokers in general, brokers get no respect. But so what do you do? Well, I cannot believe my luck. I missed both packages. Remember I said I was waiting for beer, that Patek, and then I was waiting for the scope. And then we were having issues with that fancy headset. And because it's on warranty, you know, my boss paid $350 US for that headset, and it's on 5-year warranty. And so we called the company trying to troubleshoot why it was losing power after like 5 minutes. And I told my boss, I said, you know what, I feel okay just using that VoIP phone. It's a really nice phone with very good speakerphone. You know, it's like very clear, and I can type and talk to people, you know, hands-free. So I said, let's just return it. And the company gave us a prepaid sticker, like a label, and all I had to do was just find a local FedEx agent, which reminds me, so it was Uber. I think it was 18 bucks. And then this Uber was probably 30 bucks. And so I went to drop off that package. I come back and there's we are sorry we missed you. You know, one of those nice deals. And one of them was for inside my mailbox for the beer. And the other one was from expedited parcel from Canada Post. And you know, usually the big Canada Post agent is Shoppers Drug Mart, like a pharmacy, right? But we don't have Shoppers Drug Mart right here. And check out the size of this thing. This has some damage in here, but very nicely packaged. And so they dropped it off, and then my notice says will be available tomorrow. And then I'm checking on the website, because the website will tell you if it's available earlier. Oh, check this out. They sent me a free hat. Huh. Cool. That's the name of the store. Solely Outdoors. Interesting. Oh, wow, look at this. So it's called Diamondback Tactical. So it's 416 by 44, and it's M-Red reticle. And I was doing research on this because this is my first scope. Believe it or not. And what does it say here? It says premium optical system and select glass elements deliver exceptional resolution. Okay, nitrogen gas purged and O-ring sealed for fog-proof and waterproof performance. And then fully multi-coated, anti-reflective coatings on all air-to-glass surfaces. And the last one is shock-proof. Rugged construction withstands the highest levels of recoil and impact. And so it's 30mm tube size. Included accessories are lens covers, microfiber lens cloth, and sunshade. You know, because I didn't want to get something super expensive, so I got this because it was getting good reviews. But let's see what's inside. What's inside? I'm guessing this is the shade. Okay. Wow, feels very cold. So it comes with this little sticker. Attention! To properly mount your rifle scope, we highly recommend using an inch per pound torque screwdriver. Do not exceed 18 inch per pounds of torque on the ring screws. So, wow, nice looking scope. So this was about 500 Canadian, probably close to 350 US. And I hope, my only concern is that, of course, first off, I have to learn how to use it, but it shouldn't be too complicated. And then I hope the rings that I got are, I bought high mount rings. I hope they're enough. Okay, so that's the cloth, and this is the product manual, and I already found it online, so I already have the PDF version of this, but maybe it's has some more info, but so it has a product manual. Oh wow, so there's a product manual, and then there's a reticle manual. So now I know what I'm gonna be reading if I cannot sleep. But what I like is that this reticle looks pretty good. It has so it's a front focal plane, so it has lots of information to help you with sighting the rifle. But of course it's MRAD, so it's not mil, minute of angle. But I found that when I was doing my research, I found that MRAD is actually better for long range, and that's what Army uses. Army snipers, they use MRAD. They don't use minute of angle. So anyway, at least I got my Vortex scope. So now we're gonna mount it, and maybe next weekend I'm gonna rent a car again, and because I have 26.5 cm cartridges for the rifle. So once I install this, I can already go and do some target practice. So anyway, those are the news. No emails from the carrier, so hopefully no issues anymore. So they're gonna deliver hopefully in a week or so in BC, and then we'll go from there.